All right, and we are live. So we'll just continue this conversation. First and foremost, Tony, thanks for joining us, brother.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. Tony from Pedal Durango is with us today. It's been quite a winter here in Durango, so you haven't seen him as much online as you did maybe 6 months ago, but you're going to start seeing a whole lot more from Pedal Durango coming up soon. So we just wanted to catch up with you and talk about all things that is cycling here in Durango. Now, to continue the conversation we're talking about a little bit of visualization, which is something that can really help cyclists with getting stuff done. You just did a century, last week? You rode 100 miles?
Last week or the week before?
Yeah. Again, anybody that knows, lives in Durango knows that it's been a pretty cold, wet winter. So getting out without a whole lot of training and jumping right into a century is a bold move. So, so how did you get through that?
My buddy who I rode with, he's the one who's talking to a few races this summer. So he's kind of like, you got to put in miles. So just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So it was good. I used a lot of my old training of like making sure I'm shifting muscle groups and all that I'm using. And first time actually on a real road bike, which was kind of interesting.
Oh, really?
So for those of you who have followed me at all in the last couple summers, Iron Horse, I've done them on a single speed. So no gears, no brakes, no anything like that. It's just hardcore minimalist.
Yeah.
And because my buddy, he talked me into doing the Death Ride Tour, or the challenge, actually, the 24-hour race. I need some gearing on that one. So
Okay.
Be able to coast a little bit.
Yeah.
So picked up a cheap bike and just started trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Still been a little difficult, but at least that kind of saved me being able to gear down.
What is that, with that minimalist approach to something like the Iron Horse? And for those of you that don't know, the Iron Horse coming up in May is a ride from Durango to Silverton, and you do two very large passes through there. So, generally speaking, you want some low gearing to be able to not be out of the saddle the whole time with your kneecaps not exploding. So doing that on a single speed, what kind of gearing would you use, and what's your mindset? How do you get through that?
So for my bike, it's a fixed gear, so I can't coast at all. And I specifically picked a gearing, it's 48-15, so it's kind of high.
Okay.
Mostly so then on the downhills, I have some speed.
Yeah.
But most of it, training for that and building up my own kind of mental pain tolerance, I suppose.
Yeah.
Was just kind of like, it's the only bike I had, so it was kind of like the only choice I had, so I kind of had to do it anyways. But it turned into a huge mental game after a certain point, and it was more so like an internal game with yourself versus anybody else or the road or anything.
Yeah. It's this muscle.
Exactly.
A lot of
it's totally that muscle.
So what do you, on something like let's say Coal Bank, where you're coming around that corner and you've just got that massive up, what kind of physical techniques do you use to maintain some sort of cadence where you don't completely lose all forward momentum?
So with my bike, usually I'll do 3 or 4 pedal strokes out of the seat, and then I'll do 4 or 5 in the seat. Okay. And it's definitely making sure I'm using the full rotation of the pedal crank or the stroke. So
hamstring, quad, calf, you're using everything. And to get all the way through that. That's again, for those of you that don't know, that is absolute madness trying to successfully pedaling from Durango to Silverton on a fixed gear bike. That's especially because I'd want to coast too. You can't coast. That's crazy. Real quick, let's come back to that. I want to know a little bit more about you and Pedal Durango. What's your story? How did you end up in Durango?
So I was born and raised in Durango. In 2010, I moved up to Portland for a little bit and spent some time up there, and then in 2013 moved back. Okay. So while I was up there, I do a lot of skate park riding and freestyle cycling as well. Okay. So while I was up there, there was a group called Skate Church. And so they had an indoor skate park, and they would have more or less you can go and ride there for free, and as long as you listen to a sermon.
Okay.
I thought the whole program or the idea of it was pretty cool. So I went and visited, and they wouldn't allow bikes.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is an entire demographic of people who could benefit from this.
Yeah.
So that's where my ideas started kind of cooking, of being very inclusive. Mm-hmm. And so my ideas started cooking while I was up there. And then when I moved back here, seeing the disconnect of the cycling community and how it's so pocketed.
Yeah.
Kind of got to me, because I do the freestyle. I've now getting into the road, and I've done mountain, and I've done downhill, and I have connections with all these groups, but none of the groups really seem to connect very well.
No, they can get cliquish. You don't really. Yeah, it's true. I'm guilty of it myself. You know, the roadie versus mountain mentality and things like that. So okay, but go ahead. Yeah, I totally see that.
After seeing that, wanting to have a central hub for everything cycling.
Okay.
So content, events, advertisers, products, anything that I could pull together that highlights what Durango has to offer and what different disciplines we have.
And this is what has evolved to become what is Pedal Durango.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I found you on Instagram, and that led me kind of down the funnel over to your website to see what is going on, it's a fantastic tool, guys. Check out pedaldurango.com. It really does answer almost all your questions about what's going on in town. Even if you're looking for a ride that weekend, that night, even, you get all the shop rides in there and everything on the calendar, which is incredibly helpful. With that, what kind of, I'm going to kind of segue into this, because this is a fitness podcast. What kind of training are you doing currently, aside from just riding 100 miles? And what kind of training do you see others in Durango doing, whether it be mountain bike riders, road bike riders, fixie riders, freestyle riders? Do you see fitness regimens that are similar, or how does that work in your mind?
So since my main thing for the longest time was the freestyle, there's not really any fitness regimen. Mm-hmm. I started trying to get more into weightlifting a little bit more and just being stronger, which started to help with a lot of that. So I guess a little bit of weight training and focusing on just your ability to move your own weight.
Yeah.
Would be part of that. When it comes down to more specific cycling, like mountain bikers tend to be a little bit more the weightlifters, I believe, just because they've got the strength, they've got the snappy, quick twitch and muscles, and to like really do those quick, snappy climbs. And then for the roadies or the road cyclists, my buddy that pulled me off the couch to go do that century, he's been doing small rides throughout town. 20, 30 miles here and there, and then he's been doing a few centuries at least once a month. Okay. Because he's got like 5 races this summer, so he just wants to hammer in miles, which is awesome. Yeah. But he's working with, Todd Wells. Okay. A little bit for a decent cycling regimen. And then definitely with all the pros we have in town, we got Todd Wells, Ned Overin, all these guys that have such a background within pretty hardcore fitness and being top level performers. Just kind of mimicking or following them. Okay. Been really cool. And then I know, like, specifically for the road, Durango Wheel Club has rides every week, and then they've got the Worlds on Tuesday. Which that's where all the big guys come out. And so trying to like maintain speed with them is always a good challenge. Always, absolutely. So, how do you find, what are some of your best ways, aside from stopping on Main and having a beer, what are the best ways to recover post-ride that have worked for you so you're not so sore the next day? We've got the river, which is awesome. Just go jump in the river real quick, the nice cold bath real quick. Yeah. I've enjoyed doing that. I've done sauna or steam rooms, which has been really nice. And then even for myself, I've been always kind of into the meditation stuff. And more specifically, I've read a few books now recently on cycling specifically for meditation. And that's always helpful. It just kind of like brings everything back to center. And then being able to utilize that tool as a visualization tool has been awesome. With some of the reading I've been doing with some of these guys who are very in the know of neuroscience and quantum physics and meditation and intention and all that fun stuff. I think that's what's helped me this winter a little bit, is because I haven't been on the bike much. But just being able to put myself into a place where I can visualize myself riding 250 or riding Coalbank Pass, and like just kind of remembering the Iron Horse from last year almost, and like kind of going through each mile a little bit. I mean, that's been a good training tool for me for not being able to get actually out on the bike. Which is
what we were discussing right before we turned the camera on. We were discussing a book you were reading where one of the tests they were doing was you give a guy a 20-pound barbell or dumbbell and you have him do a curl, and you have another person that does that same movement without the dumbbell. Is that correct? And visualize 20 pounds?
Yeah, no actual physical movement, but it's visualization.
The visualization. So are they while they visualize, are they actually creating tension?
I don't remember if the test specifically said that they're causing that tension in their arm, but the visualization of making that motion is what they were working on.
And what they were finding is they were getting gains from people just from the visualization side of things, which is a big thing for coaches in the fitness industry, is getting people outside of their own fears, outside of their own head. It's one of the toughest challenges. You can teach movement, you can teach mobility, you can give people things to take home that get them a little better than they were, but to get to top performance, it really takes a skill of getting in here, and that seems to be where the science is going nowadays. It's pretty interesting.
Well, and to segue off that, so one of the reasons why I've been so not active this winter on Pedal Durango is because I went back to school. Mainly for psychology, and the reason why I wanted to go back is I wanted to be able to utilize Pedal Durango as a platform to offer, I guess, more or less a counseling program utilizing cycling as the conduit. So like you said, getting that mind-body connection to dissolve and then be present is something I would so love to be able to share, because I know that's affected me personally. And again, so my training and doing things stupidly hard with the fixed gear on the Iron Horse and those sort of things, it definitely transports you to a different place in your mind. And it's, when I was in high school, I got in a lot of trouble. I wasn't the best kid. But I started cycling down the skate park. And luckily I was able to get into the actual sport, the actual riding the bike and all that, versus the scene that was down at the skate park. So I was able to sidestep that, but being physically active and being present in the pedal stroke or the spin or where I'm placing my tire dissolved that barrier, and I'd say it saved me in high school, or else I probably would have been in a lot more trouble.
So this is interesting, because we've talked about two things that you'll read in the science books that they've just kind of jumped out. One of them was, we were talking about recovery. You know, all the rage now is ice baths, things like that. And here in Durango, everybody's already been doing that, because if you've ever jumped in that river in April, it's damn cold. So, you know, that is already a recovery thing that people already do, is the first thing that Tony mentioned as recovery. And all of a sudden now in the fitness world, everybody's like, oh, ice baths are the thing, like some breaking new science. And it's not breaking new science. Secondly is, you know, the psychology of taking that physical angst and putting that into a better, more productive form. That's been, you know, something that's been studied more and more. And you were already there in high school. A lot of times, if you can't get out of that stagnant place, you do dumb things. But if you can find something you love that's physical, then generally you tend to perform better in all aspects of life. So that's pretty awesome. That stuff that you're already doing is stuff that science is just now coming out with. So how do you keep yourself? Let's talk about injuries. Every cyclist gets injured. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I've had a couple bad crashes throughout my time on the bike. What do you do to get through that mental part? Like, you know, for example, I broke my tibia in a mountain bike crash, and you know, I was off the bike for 8 weeks. How do you handle something like that? And now going into that mental thing, what do you do?
Well, so for those of you who have known me up through high school and such, I had a lot of people know me as the kid who had the broken wrists.
Okay.
Because I had both my wrists casted at one point from a cycling accident at the skate park. Something I think kind of aids my mental on that is I have a stupidly high pain tolerance. I broke my scaphoid bone, and it was broken for 3 months before I did anything about it. Yeah. So that unfortunately kind of gives me a different parameter of pain, I suppose.
Okay.
Because I've done coaching with Devo now for a couple seasons, and
real quick, if you guys don't know, Durango Devo is the development group, different age groups of mountain bikers that if you see pros coming out of Durango, they were likely in Devo.
Yeah.
When they're it's a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, I think Blevins was in Devo.
Oh, wow.
Or a few of those guys.
Yeah.
But so because my context of pain is a completely different level, it's been difficult for me to try and bring that back. Like, okay, they might actually be in a lot more pain than I would assume because
as a coach, like when you're coaching others, okay.
So that's been a little bit different for me. I have been coaching a few boys down at the skate park just to feel that different discipline of cycling. And one of the first things I started working with them on is you need to learn how to bail.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes into the first aspect of preventing an injury is knowing how to fall off your bike, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I had 2 broken wrists is I just, went like this, trying to catch myself and broke bones.
Yeah.
But being able to catch yourself and roll or do different aspects like that would really help for the prevention.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the recovery or dealing with that lack of activity for a while, and again, I'm not the best example because I would give my mom the excuse, I'm just going to the skate park to watch, and I'd be riding my bike with 2 broken wrists. So
that's fantastic.
Again, I just kind of played differently in that aspect, so I don't have the best context to try and relate something general.
But that's good because what you're saying is, if I'm understanding right, you of course you have that great high pain tolerance, but you also acknowledge that not everybody does. And when you're coaching others, you have to be able to put yourself in their shoes, which is something very important, bringing that back to the coaching side of things. When it comes to being injury proof, I agree. The tumbling, I actually coach a lot of tumbling in the gym just because people don't know how to fall. And it's amazing, as an adult, if you can't do a somersault, just a basic roll, then you need to question where you are because you need to be a kid again. You need to have fun. So that's really important. I also, when it comes to injury proof, I kind of like how the NFL, I use this example a lot. In the combine, they have, you've got your super fast runs. All the lower body stuff is super fast twitch, super 3 seconds of all out, and then it's done. Whereas the upper body in the NFL combine, they do bench it, I believe it's 250 pounds, but they do an unbelievable amount of reps, which is, of course, creating hypertrophy, which creates bigger shoulders, which creates shoulder pads. And that's literally why, when you're hitting people, or if you're hitting the ground on a bike, having a little bit more up top generally is going to help the impact. And that's something I do also train with a lot of push-ups and things like that when it comes to getting people ready for bike season. If you can tumble and if you've got a bit, heavier shoulders, you're generally going to do a little better.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Another thing to touch on with that is just being very, very conscious and aware of your body, knowing whether a pain you're feeling is a muscle pain, just a nerve pain or a bone pain or all of those.
Are you sore or are you injured?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So being able to differentiate those is really good.
Which you're not good at.
Times,
With 2 broken wrists. No, I'm good. It's fine.
Yeah. Gotten better over the years with that one a little bit. But yeah, being able to do that, because then that would also differentiate between, pushing yourself to a sufferfest and just kind of enjoying the pain versus actually knowing you're injured. So definitely knowing the differences in those pains is definitely another aspect of making sure, okay, this pain's okay, I'm just sore, I'm tearing things down to rebuild versus something's
wrong.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point. I think that a lot of people have a hard time discerning that. And if you are having a hard time discerning that, see a coach, see a physical therapist. There's different ways to figure that out. Real quick, I've got two kind of final questions for you before we close this up. First, foremost, you have just 10 miles within Durango. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite trail? Pop quiz.
Yeah. I think I'd probably have to pick Upper Star Wars in Test Tracks.
Yeah.
That whole area, I rode that through middle school, high school, all the time. So I know those trails like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
And there's a few in there that are very well used now that me and a buddy actually put in.
Okay.
By accident.
Yeah.
So I think that area is my favorite. I've now ventured out of that, coaching with Devo and such, that I do like the ridge. It's technical, it's fun, it's a little intricate.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get a joy out of that one as well.
Yeah.
And just because for the longest time, that's all I just rode test tracks.
Yeah.
Because the jumps and the freestyle and like that sort of stuff. But now I'm kind of venturing out.
I had a buddy, John, and I rode Upper Star Wars, and I don't know it as well as he does, and he was gone. I'm trying to keep up. That's such a fun run. It's the only thing with Upper Star Wars is it's so steep and it's so swoopy that it's over with too quickly. So you want it to you only wish it could be longer. And yeah, the ridge is definitely a technical. I curse a lot on the ridge. Like it's all rock and just. Every crevice is just big enough to swallow a 27.5 tire. That's how I figure it. So you really got to hop around.
Yeah.
Last question, 2019, what does Pedal Durango have coming up?
So this year I'm really going to focus on the events and making sure that's as up to date as possible. And then also just developing good content and circulating it on there and making sure that anybody who's using that hashtag Pedal Durango, that I'm trying to share their content on mainly Instagram, because that seems to be the most visual central spot for everybody. But I enjoy seeing everybody's stuff. It's fun seeing the novice who are riding the bike trail, which is a really awesome shot of the river, or you have guys, doing the big drops of perg or huge jumps up in test tracks, and just seeing the different variation between, beginner novice to holy crap.
Yeah. It really is an amazing dichotomy here in Durango. It's awesome.
And then beyond that, I'd love to work with a few shops and develop a crit series.
Okay.
So then it's not just mountain with Zia and that sort of thing, but also offering something,
right downtown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So developing those relationships with the city, with different venues that we can use for just a small crit race, because then a crit race is tight, it's quick, it's fun, it's social.
It's carnage.
Yes. So just something else to add to what we have to offer here in Durango, I think would be a blast. Then I'm working with both Devo and Every Pedal this season.
Yeah.
And would love to see more programs focused on youth right now, just because I know we've had such an issue with suicide and other things like that are really hard for the youth. And being able to have cycling as an outlet and having those who have the compassion to work with the kids to really aid them in stepping through this mess of what we call life, I think would be a blast. And I want to be a part of that to really open that area up for what Durango has to offer through the cycling community as well. And
that's absolutely fantastic. Most importantly, are there going to be any hats hidden in the woods? I love following that on Instagram.
So last year we did one treasure hunt hat. I'm going to do more. Yeah,
that was the best.
That was way fun.
Yeah, everybody was out in the woods looking for hats. That was great.
Yeah, and I'll do. That one was a Colorado one that one of the FLC kids found, and he got some really cool shots of that one. One of my boys that I coached down at the skate park, I did a really cool kind of graffiti rainbow looking one, and it turned out really cool.
Excellent.
So I'll be doing some crazy random one-offs, and
All right, guys.
Definitely plan on that.
Follow Pedal Durango on Instagram. Check out the website. All the information you need for everything going on in Durango when it comes to bikes, which is this time of year, everything going on in Durango. So, Tony, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. See you guys soon.
See ya.